Okay, the topic of discussion slash podcast theme and idea of this is to get an argument sought out using westernized philosophical ideas and sources to have two minds who disagree with each other come to a middle ground of agreement. So we have our guest, Chris. Chris, you want to introduce yourself? What kind of major are you and educational background?
I'm Chris. I'm a philosophy and sociology double major. Grew up in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and graduated from Stevens Point Area Senior High.
Okay, thank you. And then Pacific, do you want to introduce your educational background?
Hello, I'm Pacific. I'm an aerospace engineer major here at the University of Minnesota. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, born and raised. I'm graduated Penn Trafford High School, class of 2023.
Okay, sweet. So now we're going to introduce the first question of discussion, and throughout the discussion we'll be referencing quotes and different types of themes from philosophical resources, including René Descartes' Discourse on Method and Marcus Aurelius's The Meditations, and then various other websites. Okay, first question. Is it okay to lie to protect yourself?
I think it is certainly within the ethics world to lie to protect yourself, because it is your body and you have the right to defend yourself in whatever means possible. So lying is one of those means. Even if it's wrong, you have the ethical high ground to lie in that situation.
I would disagree. I think Immanuel Kant would disagree, and I'm a big fan of his perspective. I think he would consider lying a categorical imperative, and by lying, you're violating his golden rule of treating people merely as a means and not as an end. I think you're violating. I think you're violating their dignity and their autonomy as a person by lying to them. And I think if you can justify lying in one circumstance, you can justify lying in another. Like, how far does protecting yourself go? Is it protecting yourself from death? Is it protecting yourself from harm? Is it protecting yourself from loss of honor or like loss of face?
I mean, I think that could be more specified. That could be more specific in the question. You know, is it protecting yourself from death? Like, because if it's just protecting yourself from like
A punishment or social judgment, stuff like that.
Social judgment, then that's a different story. But I was under the assumption that it was protecting yourself
physically.
Physically from like death or something. So that's why I think it's okay to lie.
Yeah, and I would say, using a quote from Marcus Aurelius, he goes, "You only have power over your mind, not outside events. So realize this and you'll find strength." And if you analyze that, you can see deeper that he's talking about worry about you, yourself, and your business. Don't let others offend you. So from that perspective kind of goes, if you're lying to protect yourself and you only have power over yourself, why not lie?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So I'd say, I still wouldn't say that lying can be justified in all scenarios, but I guess I could say that lying, when it comes to a matter of life or death, or protecting yourself in those extreme scenarios, I would say that it'd be okay to lie, be morally okay to lie.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Sweet. Okay, second question. We're going a little bit more juicier. By the way, the topics of this is answering controversial questions using westernized philosophy, because we want to see if these guys can reach a middle ground, which so far they have 1 out of 3. So, is cancel culture or call-out culture good for society? Chris, your opinions?
I would say no, it's not. I think consequentialists, specifically like rule consequentialists, rule utilitarianists would probably agree with me. I would say that canceling can be a good thing. It can, in some cases, bring a greater good. Just like if you had the trolley problem, right? You can pull the lever to save one person, or to save the 5 people and kill the one. But I think by allowing people to choose, who dies or lives, it's kind of similar to this in the sense of, what's the question?
Is like cancel culture or
Yeah,
culture good for
sorry.
society?
I think cancel culture is a very slippery slope, and if you allow one person to be canceled,
Yeah.
you're going to allow everybody to be canceled. So I'd say it's never okay to cancel anybody.
And I mean, just going back to the quote that we just said, it's like you only have power over your mind on the outside events to realize it's, of strength. So it's, again, using the ethics and the Western idea of Stoicism, we want to use that quote and those ideas to kind of just worry about ourselves and our business instead of worrying about each other's and trying to harm others. So, Pacific, your take?
My take on cancel culture is, I think, honestly, despite all the controversy around it, I think it's a good thing overall. And the reason why I think that is because we always strive for a more perfect society. And in my opinion, the only way to get that perfect society or get very, very close to that perfect society is if people hold each other to a standard, hold each other accountable to a standard that the people themselves make. So I think that if the people decide overall to cancel something or someone, then because the people decided it, it's a good thing for society. And that brings us closer to that more perfect society that we want.
You allow me to play devil's advocate. I think Nietzsche would disagree with you on the perfect society. I think if you are striving for a perfect society, I don't think there's really much of a life to be lived in the perfect world. I think, as he would say, like, where would creativity come without frustration? Where would pleasure come if it weren't for pain? In a similar vein, I think, like, what would the benefit of life be if we were in a perfect society? I think people, if these people still have a following and they've done bad things, I think it shows that maybe they're more than just the bad thing that they did. They can still be benefiting society. They can still be helping people in some way. So I think cancel culture, in some cases, maybe in more extreme cases, is okay if somebody's done something,
terrible,
real bad.
But in the case of like someone just disagreeing and they try to, let's say, ruin their lives or expulsion or get them fired from their job or things like that.
Even just stating a controversial opinion sometimes can be cancelable, when in reality, it should be a topic for discussion.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, maybe sometimes cancel culture is taken way too far by some people, like
soft-minded individuals.
Yeah, people who can't have discussions like
who can't handle the truth.
It's okay. Reasonable people disagree, as my professor said.
Okay, sweet. So you guys have reached the middle ground for 2 out of 3. I also just want to introduce a quote by Marcus Aurelius that says, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change. I seek the truth which never harmed anyone. The harm is to persist in one's self-deception and ignorance." So, if we're thinking philosophically, and if someone can prove you wrong and deny all of your reasoning, and you have no other, let's say, backfire on it, then why not accept it as the truth? That's not just talking to you guys, it's just like talking to the people who are listening.
I got something to say about this quote. I know Zhuangzi
Okay.
would disagree with you on that. You ever read his
I have not, but he's Eastern.
Oh,
Yeah. This is Western.
We're talking Western philosophy here, man.
And the Romans, the Greeks, the Germans. Okay, and then another quote by Rene Descartes, which I find extremely useful, is his use on problem solving any problem, whether it be equational, emotional, physical, things like that. So it's accept nothing as true except his one truth, which is I think, therefore I am. And then you divide the problems into the simplest parts, and you go up block by block, proceeding from simple to complex, and then by the fourth rechecking your answer. So you start at the base, divide it up into the easiest, and then go from the easiest to the hardest as you go so carefully, and at the fourth you recheck your answer. And that was his way of coming to conclusions for certain problems. So, on to our third and final controversial question. Should kids in the ages of 0 between 18 be allowed to change their gender permanently? Pacific.
I do not think that kids between 0 and 18 should have the ability to change their gender permanently. That is a massive decision that will change their life forever. And the adult mind doesn't develop until they're like 23, right? Like the brain does not develop until like they're fully developed until they're 23. So these kids who are making these decisions with impaired brains. Kind of, you know, like they're not fully developed and they're just making these. It's just not right. They should have their parents make these decisions.
You're saying they should have time to learn and develop about the outside world before they make such a big decision.
Exactly. They need their parents' permission to.
Yeah.
What would the definitive point be where you reach an age where it's acceptable? Because just because your brain fully develops doesn't mean you're at your most sound mind. I mean, I think 18 is the right to vote, 21 is the right to legally drink alcohol, smoke marijuana in some states.
Yeah, at 18 you can go die for your country, but you can't enjoy a nice beer. So.
Yeah, no, I agree.
At 18 you could, I don't know, I think if you have the ability to go die for your country, I think you have the ability to change your gender. Also, what would you do in cases where a child's been emancipated from their parents?
Yeah.
They're independently like living on their own. Would you say in that case they have a sound enough mind to...
I feel like 18 is where it should be. I think 18 should be the cutoff for everything, personally.
Okay, but now think of this. So, like this quote, like the whole stoicism aspect is to go with the flow of nature and to accept things for what they are, right? So it says, quoting Marcus Aurelius, nature is the nature of ultimate reality to which all present existence is related. And then he also has this quote where it goes, at dawn when you get trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of? If I'm going to do the things for what I was born with and brought in this world to do so, or is this what I was created for? To huddle under blankets and stay warm. So when you're having trouble in bed thinking of like, if I'm comfortable, why get out? And then he also says, so you were born to feel nice. Instead of doing the things and experiencing them, don't you see the plants, the birds, the ants, the spiders, and bees going about their individual tasks, putting the world in order as the best they can, and you're not willing to do your job as a human being? Why aren't you running to do what nature demands? So, based off that, and if people are going against nature, and because, theoretically, naturally, there are two genders, and, if you're going against nature and switching your gender against what the quote-unquote nature made you for, is it right or wrong? Because I feel like in westernized philosophy and stoicism eyes, if you're going against nature, that's basically just going up against like existence and reality.
Well, then would you be against changing... It sounds to me like you're against changing gender altogether.
No, that's not me. This is just what...
No.
This is just what ideas are saying, Chris. No.
Sorry. I would say that... this is a difficult one because I think it's a relatively recent development that people can change their genders.
This is probably the most controversial.
I'm trying... Yeah, I'm racking my mind for... anything other than, I think, again, like a consequentialist perspective is probably the one that applies the most. I think for some people it might be the right decision at 15 and they know it, or 14 and they know that they need to change their gender. They want to change their gender and they're going to be happy with it. But I think some people, a greater majority of people might not have their mind or fully made up or will be maybe regretting their decision later on. I don't think that until they're at least 18, I guess, when you're able to go die for your country is when you should be able to make the decision to change your gender. So I think in some cases, while it might be great for some individuals, I think the rule should be that they have to wait until they're 18. I think that...
Yeah.
I suppose I could make that concession to you.
Thank you. I agree with that.
Sweet. So you guys came to three middle grounds using philosophical westernized ideas, and we use multiple different resources. A few sources that we didn't mention so far was the reason why we wanted to do this is philosophy is not used in schools these days, and it's not taught. And I think one of the most beneficial programs that we could teach is just critical thinking skills and modernized ethics, which is a quote, or not a quote, but an idea from Keystone Studies and James Madison University, where it teaches you general problem-solving skills, and it helps philosophy, can help understand others, and it can help you understand yourself. And then one of our last resources was How to Be a Stoic, which is from their website, literally called How to Be a Stoic. And then a scholarly YouTube video between a discussion of individuals who all have doctorates and PhDs. Does philosophy still matter? Quote unquote, on the channel's The New School. And they talk about, of course it still matters. It matters in the business world. It matters when you are problem solving, when you get into arguments. It helps you rationally think about certain individuals, certain ideas. So, yeah. I mean, another site and source we could also use is the University of Minnesota's Twin Cities campus philosophy professor, Philip Bold. His idea of ethics is pretty westernized, and it originates in Socratic methods. So, yeah, overall, we did successfully use westernized philosophy with two individuals who have two disagreements over each question, and the questions happen to be controversial. So, successfully, I think this was a great success. What do you guys think?
It was great. It was great. It was very successful. I'm glad.
Shake that hand.
Great. Well, we're shaking hands virtually, but yes, thank you guys for
We
listening.
shook hands in person.
And shout out Professor Jessica Trad. Thank you for being a great writing professor. Bye.